just talk about some of the myths. Even as medical students, or even as a psychologist like you guys, you must have come across all that stigma, those myths associated with mental health or going for counseling. So, what's your take on that?
Exactly. It's one of the fields where stereotypes are attached, like going to therapy or going to counseling signs weakness. And also they think that only people with serious mental illness go for therapy or counseling, which is not true. Uh, so yeah, counseling can also be preferred by people who really want to achieve and be better than their the current self. So we call something called there's something called ideal self. So for that you set goals. Counselors help with that. So there's a lot of things. And other common myths are that parents, if the parents are suffering from illnesses, a psychotic disorder or any illness like depression or anxiety, people believe that their children also have. But it can be true, yeah, heredity plays a role, but it's not always true. Not everybody are like that. So again, there's a stereotype attached to it. And then people expect that when they come to counseling or therapy, we are going to give them solutions. We're going to be the directive people where we direct things. No, we don't. We work with the client, along with the client. So there's no counselor client, there's counselor client. So we work on the same level. So that is another myth. And yeah, this common most traumatic stereotype or myth attached to all counselors, psychologists, is that psychologists read, which we don't. Astrologers or no, whatever, we don't do telepathy, no. So yeah, it's just we there might be things which say behavior. We see the behaviors and assume things, but that's just assumptions. Again, every individual is different, so there's no common thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to add a few things. So usually people think that counseling is just the advice. It's just the auntie thing. It's better to go to auntie rather than someone who's like completed all like 5 degree of psychology. So people usually assume that it's just a talk thing. You just go there and talk. That's all you do. And people are charging you for that. People have all these complaints, but I say it's not always advice. There's no advice involved in counseling. It's just that we talk about the problems of the client, and we sometimes when needed we have to educate them. If someone is coming to us with some problem and we have diagnosed with them with this thing now, so we will be explaining them that you are going through this. That is psychoeducation. Like you guys would be very familiar with all those things. So that is different from advice. It doesn't come under advice. And people always expect instant solution, as Saad mentioned before. Like that's not going to be possible because there's a lot of other dynamics involved. So it's like a lot of time is involved in that. And also people say that they're often labeled in counseling. It's a common myth in counseling. People are labeled, but it's not so. We don't judge them. We just be very positive and like try to solve the problem together and let them find their own solution. It's not like I'm going to preach my own views on them. It's just that we are going to like work with the client to make them get their own solution. That's the point of counseling. So there are a lot of myths. We can talk about myths for like there are a lot of things involved in the society. The sad part is our friends can't be our counselor. Uh, there's something called dual roles or dual
No,
relationship.
what I meant was our counselors are like our friends. So basically, even our friends are doing the same role where they are listening to us, and we are not seeking any solution from them. But it's just that we want someone to talk to and figure it out ourselves.
Yeah, I get it. But again, there's a thin line involved. When you're talking to your friends, unknowingly they'll be favorable to you. But when you're talking to a counselor,
Yes.
they will put the facts out there. They can't I can't counsel Parkavi because I know Parkavi for a long time, so I can't counsel her and she can't counsel me because we are friends and she knows in and out about me. So that when counseling, she'll be inclined to my decision. She'll be like she might have some bias in whatever she's doing. So dual roles are not always expected. Like your mentors can't be your counselors, your teachers can't be your counselors. So it's really recommended to go for a counselor or a therapist who is out of your circle so that you have a proper professional relationship there. So that is what I would like to clarify. So I think
Ma'am, are you suggesting that a stranger is best fitted as a counselor because a person who doesn't know absolutely anything about you can actually help you find a solution for you?
But you can always say friends and strangers are different, right? So friends will be like, it's okay, it's nothing, yeah, come on, tell. No, counselors won't be like that. They know it's subjective with strangers, right? But it's always subjective with friends.
Ma'am, I would like to ask, like, there is always a trust issue. Like, we can share everything with our friends. Like, friends are considered to be unpaid therapists. But is it possible to build that rapport with a stranger who is a counselor? Like, it takes a whole lot of effort to know that person. Like, if you are there to counsel me, so you will, like, my point of view, what I will say, you will consider that to be the truth, right? So, but there needs to be a trust here. There is always a trust. Like, there is always a hesitation in talking to a stranger about something related to ourselves, and without that too, without any judgment. So is it that simple?
Actually, I would like to answer that question. So there are basically some skills and techniques that as counselors and mental health professionals that we acquire, and it involves unconditional positive regard and being non-judgmental, not being biased to any situations. And when we come across certain situations wherein our beliefs and the client's beliefs clash, then we can refer them to other therapists who can be of more help to them. You basically should not be judgmental. We have something called rapport building, wherein first we make the clients comfortable in the first session, like because it's very new to them when they come in, and then they'll be very anxious about the whole therapy thing itself because of all those myths that they hear about. So it is the responsibility of the counselor to make them feel comfortable, and not every client is comfortable in the first session. So it depends on the clients when will they open up. The therapist plays a major role in making the clients comfortable, and we have certain techniques for it, like asking open-ended questions so that the client will be more able to answer those questions. And then it's a slow process for some clients. Some clients may take a long time, a long duration to open up to us. It all depends on the client, and we actually acquire those responsibilities and skills. Yeah.
So to
Thank
add
you
on,
so much.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
I had one question.
yeah, yeah.
So if our friend is going to something and we think that he requires a counseling, so how can we convince him? And in a country like India, where most of things are dependent on whether parents give them permission to do or not, so how do we go about it? How do we tell him that counseling will help you?
Okay, to answer that question, you can't really force someone to go in for a counseling or therapy. You can maybe tell your friend, like, there is something called counseling, and there's something called like there are professionals to help you cope with the distress, and it's better to go and get that help. It's just like telling a sick person to go to a doctor. It's just telling them that you're going through some distress, and then there are professionals, mental health professionals who can help you, and you can maybe refer them to professionals. That's all you can do. You can't really pull them to a counseling session.
Ma'am, do
Thank you,
you
ma'am.
think that people don't go to professional counselors because it is normally highly charged, and because of which a lot of population does not even try seeking help? So is that true?
I'm not sure whether they think that we highly charge, because only when they come to a counselor they know how much each counselor charges, right? So maybe because of the myths that they hear from people, just that if you go and tell your friend that I'm going for a counseling sessions, the immediate response would not be positive one. So I think all those plays a role rather than the money that we charge. There are free counselors too, like counselors who give free sessions too.
So now, like, I would like you all to let us know what are basically the basics of counseling. What do we need to keep in mind when we are trying to do counseling, or like what are the techniques which counseling basically involves? So could you elaborate that?
About the techniques involved, as I told before, there are something called listening, empathy, responding, and all. And the most important thing I would feel, as I said, is building rapport. It makes the client feel comfortable. Only then we can actually talk about their problem. We can actually talk to the client itself. The next important skill I feel is listening. It involves attending and observing. Attending is basically orienting oneself physically to the client to indicate that one is aware of the client, and in fact that the client has your full undivided attention. There are few methods that we follow to show that they're actually attending to the client. It involves like sitting erect, making eye contacts, nodding, not being distracted, mirroring their body postures. Actually, the research estimates that 80% of communication takes place non-verbally. So non-verbally itself, we can see whether the counselor is listening to you or not, whether the client is very comfortable in sharing with you or not. Observing is another skill wherein you capture and understand the verbal and non-verbal information communicated by the client. So that sometimes what the client says and how they show their hand gestures will be totally different. Wherein that's how we try to understand their non-verbal communication also. And then the most important skill is empathy, wherein we have the ability to perceive another's experience and then communicate that perception back to the individual to clarify and amplify their own experiencing. So it's basically like understanding the client from their own perspective. That's it. And then, as I said, unconditional positive regard, wherein we express our caring, we convey the warmth through different non-verbal communications, and then we talk to the client very non-judgmentally, and then we also respect their beliefs. We respect whatever they say, and then the another skill is information giving, wherein we give them, as Jaya said, we give them facts and opinions and resources and answers to their questions. Yeah,
I see a question in two perspectives. Okay, so you know what to keep in mind during counseling. So one is the counselor's perspective. You know, for the counselor, they shouldn't consider the client as sick. First of all, the first image they see the client should not be like seeing a sick person. So they just need help. They just need someone. They need someone to sit with them and set their goals. So there are a lot of ethical consideration, as we already talked. So the most important thing is that we have to respect them as a human. First of all, they're just a human being like us. So we have to treat them with dignity and respect. Second thing is that the confidentiality of the client, it's very important. But there is breaches in confidentiality. When you can do that breach is that when that client is a potentially harmful person. If the client is going to self-harm, like suicide, or if they're going to harm others or abuse others, if they are abusing somebody in the circle and they're opening that to us, then we have to break the confidentiality and we have to report them to the proper officials. So that is one thing. And also we have to ensure that, so there's this practitioner-client relationship. Okay, so whatever, therapist-client relationship. So that relationship has to be maintained, rapport building, trust building, and all that. So again, so if you're not, as Karen said, if you're not comfortable with handling that situation, for example, if I'm, if I'm experiencing abuse in my and another client who's experiencing abuse comes to me, and if I'm feeling that triggers my, past experience, if it triggers my memories, I'm obviously going to refer them to another therapist. If I'm not comfortable with it, I'm going to refer them. Also no-do relationships, and we have to make sure that our judgments don't affect theirs, or we shouldn't influence them. Okay, so the decision making is actually the client's responsibility there. We are not, we're not again dictating them or directing them. We're just helping them. Yeah. So from the client's perspective now, the client who's seeking therapy, that's why we said we can't push somebody into it. So they have to have the commitment and willingness to take therapy or to seek counseling. And again, as I said, there's no director. They shouldn't see a counselor as a guru or something. You can't have that. And very important is that they have to make sure the counselor or the therapist is reliable and qualified. There's so many people who call themselves psychologists. Recently, we faced, my friend actually faced somebody who said that, counseling for 10 minutes and this much is the cost. Yeah. So that is not counseling at all. It's just scam.
So all this rapport building and trust, can it be possible in one session? And also if you have to counsel one client, you also need to counsel the people related to that person, right? Like a person says something to you, but you can't, in the first session, it can't be like there is 100% trust with the client, right? So you also need to consult his parents or any other friends. Like, so is counseling related to just one person or a group of people, like the person himself and the people related to him?
Okay, so there is supposedly called family therapy, family counseling is there, and there's certain group therapy as well. And so our primary focus in counseling is we have to counsel the client. Our primary focus is only on the client, the person who walks in our doors. And if the clients, just like you mentioned, it is a very good question. We can't just blindly trust the client with whatever they say. So that is a true fact. Okay, so this rapport building takes place within 1 or 2 sessions. It would take time because as counselors, as professionals, we are trained to do that. We are trained under rigorous training. We are put in rigorous training of peer counseling to understand the rapport building, how to get into connection, how to make good rapport, how to make a good connection with the clients, with unknown people, with not our own setting. So even in our classes, when we were doing our counseling sessions as well, in our peer counseling, we were put out of our, out of our space zone, out of our boundary. We were put in some other group to counsel that set of people so that we could understand them better. We could understand how to deal with them efficiently, how to bring about the empathy part. So empathy is not just easy, like everyone could do. It's like you have to be in that person's shoes to understand what they are going through, but not entirely go deep into it. You need to have that level of stasis, you have to level of understanding. So coming back to your question, how to know that the client's information is reliable, right? So during the session, it's just like we all mentioned, it's not like one session thing, it's not one session quick fix, nothing. It's not instant fix solution. In progressive sessions, we would probe into the client. We would ask necessary open-ended questions so that, so for example, if I say, if a client comes, he says he has a fight with his friend. Let's just say that word, okay? He has a fight with his friend. So the fault is on the friend only. So the client says the entire fault is on my friend. Okay. So in the first session, we would discuss how they are, where they come from, how does the client feel at that present moment, does this have any grudge, or this is the time duration of this fight, the discrepancy, the mental health, the physical level, the physical symptoms, whether they have any physical pain or anything like that. It's entire spectrum we would go into. In the upcoming sessions, we'd go deep into what is the real issue. So where this issue started. So the client at the first session might abruptly say it's all the friend's issue. The friend is at the fault. But when we go deep and when we go dig deeper into the situation, somewhere without their consciousness, in a split second, they would blurt out some words or some keywords, some situations, some instances that would give out the actual situation, what has happened and what has not. And by the end of the day, we are not here to judge them, whether the client is at fault or whether the friend is at fault. We are not to do that. But if the client is feeling that kind of a discrepancy, we have to make them to come into a stasis and the level of understanding. We will bring into a level of understanding. Okay, this is your friend and you're having a mutual, okay, you're having a discrepancy with your friend and you're having some kind of a trouble with your friend. Now, how could we resolve it better so that the fight doesn't happen beyond this? So it doesn't go beyond breaking your bond with the person. So we would move into that rather than focusing on the fight part or the difficult problem. We would go deeper. So the deeper part would reflect on whether the client information is reliable or not. So that's how it goes. So all the mental health professionals, we all go through certain set of, we personally go, every counselor must undergo counseling so that they could have a better introspection and understanding within ourselves so that we could better guide the other person.